On October 26, 2020, Gavin Verhey, the lead vision designer and architect for Commander Legends, announced that in developing Commander Legends, he had kept Pauper, the commons-only format of Magic the Gathering, in mind when developing some of the commons for the set, and even went so far as to talk about the budget format with other designers working on Commander Legends, such as the ever-talented Jules Robbins. Keep your eyes peeled, Gavin teased the Pauper community, and peeled, we kept them as preview season unfurled. Unlike Modern, where cards from supplemental sets such as Commander Legends or Battle Bond or Conspiracy do not become legal to play with, Pauper is a true eternal format where, just like in Legacy, the cards from these sets, from all sets, do become legal to play with. The only provision, of course, being that they are commons or reprints of cards that have been downshifted to common. So when a set like Commander Legends comes out, while Modern snoozes, Pauper wakes up. To hear that the lead designer and architect was specifically thinking of our format is even more of a stimulant. But, as many Magic the Gathering players of many Magic the Gathering formats know, being on the radar of Wizards of the Coast is not always the best position for your favorite format to be in. Flashback to May 20th of 2019, a day known to Pauper players as Blue Monday. On it, Ian Duke of Wizards of the Coast announced that they were banning no fewer than 3 cards from the format, all of them blue. Gosh, banned. Days, banned. Gitaxian Probe. There is a Gitaxian Probe. Oh, it's like GIF or GIF, huh? Well, then it's Gitaxian Probe, and it's banned. The massive shakeup was done not to destroy any one deck, but simply to attempt to weaken what was the overwhelming powerhouse of blue tempo decks, with particular concern towards Delver. Despite this major shakeup, Delver and blue tempo decks continue to be prominent decks in the format, with Dimir Fairies currently one of the top 2 decks, just under Tron at 10 and 11% of the meta respectively. In other words, blue is so potent and so powerful in Pauper that this massive banning of some of the most powerful blue cards did not exactly stop blue tempo decks entirely, but it did slow them down a tick. Of particular note is that in the exact same article, reference was given to keeping an eye on the impact of the Monarch mechanic. Monarch is an extremely potent mechanic in Commander, with Monarch cards like Thorn of the Black Rose and Palace Sentinels sometimes being likened to Pauper Bob in that they can be used to gain an almost Dark Confidant-like advantage in terms of card draw. But I love Monarch in Pauper. What is so great about Monarch in Pauper is that it's not in blue. Monarch decks elevated non-blue colors, notably Boros and Mardu Monarch builds, which make use of Palace Sentinels, reprinted in Commander Legends, by the way, and previewed by none other than myself, and one of my personal favorite decks, Mono Black Devotion, making use of Thorn of the Black Rose, also reprinted in Commander Legends. I always viewed Monarch as being a great power-up to help diversify decks in Pauper, especially non-blue decks. I mean, Pauper is a very diverse format, even with the prominence of Tron. Green is everything from Bogle's Hexproof to elves to stompy options. Mono red, of course, can just do burn or goblin builds, and even has room for now more outlier decks like Izzet Blitz, while Monarch adds extra oomph to Boros and Mardu strategies, or Mono Black and Orzhov approaches. All while, there is still Delver decks and Dimir Fairy builds, and they're at the top of the lists, I suppose, but at only 10% of the meta, Pauper remains super diverse, with a style and color or colors for just about everyone. And that's why this 15-cent card from Commander Legends has so many Magic the Gathering players of Pauper rattled. It's fall from favor. It's blue. It's common. It's costed. It's removal. And it's a Monarch card. In blue. At common. Everybody panic! Fall from Favor is 2 generic and a blue for an enchantment aura, enchant creature. When Fall from Favor enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature and you become the Monarch. In blue! Enchanted creature does not untap during its controller's untap step unless that player is the Monarch. This is a lot of power in just one card. Just giving blue Monarch is already incredibly worrisome. Blue already often has a stranglehold on removal and tempo effects, countering your spells or just keeping you one step behind. Now with Monarch, a blue player can get double the card draw and protect their Monarch status with that continued lockdown effect. And oh yeah, the card itself is a lockdown effect, locking down a creature to make it all the more difficult for your opponent to recover and get ahead. I feel that any list of the most impactful common cards from Commander Legends has to put this card squarely at the top. Seriously, we lived through Blue Monday only to be given this? Fall from Favor indeed. Or is it? Because I'm not sure I agree with all the panic over this card. And when I look at the list of other powerhouse commons in Commander Legends, I don't see a blue card in sight, but I do see a lot of power for the other colors. If Fall from Favor would be my number 1 pick for Pauper impactful cards from Commander Legends, number 2 would actually be in red, a card that puts a long-held Pauper staple to shame. Goodbye, Electrickery. Hello, Fiery Cannonade, a card that keeps Delver decks and Fairy decks on the down low. Fiery Cannonade is 2 generic and a red for an instant. It deals 2 damage to each non-pirate creature. Arr. Pauper has really needed a 2 damage sweeper for some time, and while I kind of wish there had been a way to go as high as 3 damage to answer those pesky Skyfishers and witches, Fiery Cannonade is gross and it will wipe the sky of fairies and the ground of weenies. And if Delver decks are ever on the rise, this answers those insectile aberrations with ease. The only downside to this is that Tron decks are probably going to make more use of this than any other build. Yay, Tron gets another toy. Again. And yeah, mystical teachings can tutor this up. Tutors are powerful, even in Pauper. Watch my video all about tutors. But if Fiery Cannonade is the number 2 most impactful new card for Pauper, the number 3 on my list, well, it's a blessing not for blue, but for white. A blessing to budget decks within the already budget format, and I'd like to direct your attention to Benevolent Blessing. Benevolent Blessing is 1 generic and a white for an enchantment aura. It has flash, nifty, and as Benevolent Blessing enters the battlefield, choose a color. Enchanted creature has protection from the chosen color. But wait. Typically, that would cause all enchantment auras of that color that are already on the creature to fall off of it. A problem for many builds like Heroic and Hexproof. But Benevolent Blessing also reads, this effect doesn't remove auras and equipment you control that are already attached to it. So this is not just a functional reprint of a fairly expensive old Pauper staple, Chomano's Blessing, but a strictly better upgrade that is going to take mono-white Heroic decks back up to the top of the charts. Mono-white Heroic has been another one of my long-held secret powerhouses of Pauper that is often overlooked. Even without Benevolent Blessing, the decks are beyond affordable at only about $20 for the full list, and I think they're very underappreciated. They put up a great fight and they can get out of control fast. But now Benevolent Blessing further powers them up, outright replacing Chomano's Blessing, as this effect doesn't remove auras and equipment you control that are already attached to the creature. And hey, it's a great little response to someone trying to fall from favor your hero. But if Benevolent Blessing is the number 3 most impactful card for Pauper from Commander Legends, number 4 is another sweeper at 2, keeping those Delvers out of the sky and helping what is already a top deck in the format. No, not Tron this time, thank goodness, but rather a fan favorite, Elves, getting a phenomenal boost with Eyeblight Massacre. Eyeblight Massacre is 2 generic and double black for a sorcery. Non-elf creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. This card isn't just sweet, it's sweep. Huh? The double black is far from worrisome, as Birch Lore Rangers can produce black and already exist within Pauper Elves builds. And Elves of Deep Shadow are a common card that a few Llanowars can be swapped out for, or just added into the mix. Either way ensuring that double black isn't a problem. Out of everything this hits, from Slivers to Mono Black Devotion to Boros and Mardu lists, the top opponent is, you guessed it, Fairies and Delver, which is exactly the type of deck that might attempt to get a boost from Fall from Favor. But hey, add a Longbow, again, already a card run in many elf builds, and that -2 can suddenly help take out bolt bait like Skyfishers and Witches. This is a great power-up that not only helps answer blue, but that makes a fan favorite deck even stronger. All right, so we seem to be going in reverse here, having started with the most impactful card, and as we approach number 5, I find myself really struggling, not because there's a lack of picks, but because there's so many. Pauper gets a lot with Commander Legends. Look at Foundry Inspector, which might bring in a new combo design, or possibly just Pauper eggs, to the format. Fleshbag Marauder might help Tortured Existence or Zombie lists. Annoyed Altasar has Cascade? Cascade! I don't even know what I want to cascade into, but come on. Pauper Cascade, which Maelstrom Colossus also brings to Pauper. All the Cascade. We've got a Cascade deck. Check that out. These don't fit in it at all. Not at all. But if I had to pick a number 5 for this list, thankfully, it is not in blue, but rather red. A massive downshift to common that is going to impact the format, and that card is Champion of the Flame. Yet another downshift from Dominaria. Champion of the Flame is a generic in a red for a human warrior with trample. Champion of the Flame gets +2/+2 for each aura and equipment attached to it. So when you look at already a champion of the format, the card Bone Splitter, well, this just all breathes new life into Pauper with the downshift of Champion. Not to mention Equipment Matters cards in red, like Kazul's Toll Collectors and Golem's Skin Gauntlets. But whether or not a mono red equipment deck will truly be born from this, another heroic favorite of mine, mono red heroic, can stack auras like no one's business. Madcap skills, yo, or just add a white splash for that ethereal armor and go full Boros. No bogles needed here. This is pure flame. So no, I don't feel Fall from Favor is going to destroy Pauper. I mean, no more than Mystic Sanctuary did, and we banned that. Or Arkham's Astrolabe did, and we banned that. Or Expedition Map did, and we banned that. And geez, was that all just this year? Well, my point still stands. If we could survive Cloud of Fairies for as long as we did, only to finally ban it, and then immediately have Peregrine Drake downshifted to Pauper, undoing that and having to wait for another ban, we can survive Fall from Favor. But you don't have to take my word for it. You can also listen to Gavin Verhey. Wait, he got us into this mess. Well, let's at least listen.
Hey, Prof. Gavin Verhey here. I'm so glad my voice is better from the last time we talked. In designing Commander Legends, we did a few things different from normal to get the draft format to work. And one of those has to do with the commons. The kind of cards that are good in traditional one-on-one Magic can be quite a bit different from the kind of cards that are good in multiplayer Commander Magic. And as a result, the commons followed suit. You'll find cards that common in Commander Legends that could be big creatures or even board sweepers, which is something that normally you wouldn't find a ton of at common. And as a result, we knew it was likely that cards that we would make would end up being good in Pauper. Now the set is really about two things, Commander and Draft. And ultimately all of the commons had to make sure they served those goals. Those formats always won out. I've been following the Pauper metagame pretty closely recently, and in talking with game balance and play design, the conclusion was we would evaluate after Commander Legends released. The set was going to release so many cards into the format that we wanted to see how all of them impacted the format together and then go from there. We expect that cards like Fiery Cannonade and Fall from Favor will certainly get played, but until we see exactly what happens, it's hard to know for sure how the metagame's going to shake out. So the plan is to let the set hit, and then afterwards, we'll take a look at the format to see if anything needs to be changed about it. And as always, I would love to hear your feedback. So after you start playing with these cards in Pauper, feel free to hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, or even here on my Good Morning Magic YouTube channel, and I would be happy to take a look. Thanks so much, Prof, and now back to you. How do I get out of here?
So will Commander Legends lead to a dent in the Pauper format, or perhaps serious damage in need of a ban? Only time will tell, but one thing is for sure. When the top Pauper Tier 1 decks cost on average about $40, it isn't so painful when something new comes along, you get to experiment with a brew, and maybe something might get banned. It's really the best budget format. It's Legacy Light, and I cannot recommend it enough.